Hello friends, we're back for my second video ever, which is fun for me, and hopefully this one will turn out a little bit better than the first one. Obviously, the first time you do anything, it doesn't always look how you want, and I feel like that's just, everybody has like a starting point, and I'm not really doing this for anything other than for fun, and it motivates me to actually do projects and do them well. I mentioned that in one of my Instagram posts that when I did my last video, I actually felt like I was doing higher quality sewing because I had something watching me. And so I felt like I had to slow down and think about it and make sure that it turned out well because I was showing it to other people. It wasn't just, me rushing around my house trying to make this silly little project work. And so I found it to be really helpful, which is why I'm here doing it again. I actually wanted my next video to be decorating my vanity space, and that's actually currently in the works. I am filming it and curating it. However, I don't know if anyone else has really had difficulty finding vintage or antique frames or even just used frames. I've gone to so many different thrift stores, and it's just either they're hundreds of dollars for a single frame or they're just not even functional frames at that point. I found these adorable duck candle sconces, and I just had to have them. There's 3 little ducks, they're brass, they hang on the wall, it's got a little candle. That's probably the thing I'm most excited about are my cute little duck sconces. And so I'm really excited about that project, but that's going to take a while. We're traveling for the holidays, and so we're just not going to be here to work on home stuff, or at least I won't be able to work on that project until I get back, so it'll probably be like a New Year thing. So hopefully that project turns out well. That's the thing I'm the most excited about, but in order to bide my time while I'm waiting for things to come in or ideas to pop up, I wanted to do another project, and I have had this plaid fabric since the fall, and it's just such a pretty color that I really want to use it. And so I thought I'd go ahead and try out a fun dress to make. And so my idea is to either do this easy dress, which is a sewing pattern that's like anyone can sew, is supposedly the mantra of this pattern. But originally my thought was to do a circle skirt and a corset to like a little matching set. And I might still do that. The issue is that my fabric is only 45 inches wide. And for the circle skirt, based on my measurements, even at a mini length, so, like 18 inches, it's not really going to work. And so I might have to figure out a way to make it work, split it into panels. I don't know. The original idea just came to me, and it's really I want to do that. And so I might just stick with that. I might use the easy dress pattern. I'm not 100% sure. I think the first step will be me figuring out how to do the circle skirt and if I will need additional fabric. I think I have 4 yards of the other fabric, and the corset bodice really shouldn't take that much. It'll probably be like half a yard. The pieces really aren't that much, maybe a yard of fabric, and that should really be easy. So I'm not too worried about not having enough fabric, but I guess we'll find out. We'll see. I'm unsure. I just know that I would like to have some new things, and the best way to do that is to use the fabric you already have and the, thread that you already have and make the idea in your head come to life. So that is the goal for today. I want to make some sort of garment out of this plaid fabric. Another goal is I really want to try to pattern match. I haven't had to pattern match before. Most of my prints are super small or repetitive, so it doesn't look bad when you are lining up your pattern pieces because it's all meant to go the same way. And so I think the biggest thing will be trying to match the plaid. And I know you need extra fabric for that, so I might only do that for the bodice and let the skirt be whatever it ends up being. We'll see. So hopefully today will turn out. I would love to get it finished in the next 2 days. We'll see. I don't think I have much else to do, so I'm technically on holiday break, which is exciting. So that's going to be my next little project, is either a simple, easy dress or a skirt and corset combo. As you can see, my sewing helper has arrived. We'll see if he's a helper or if he's a menace. Ooh, it's looking like it might be a menace. Now I'm going to measure out the length of the skirt. Like I said, I think it's only, if I go from the waist all the way down, I think I can safely get 16 inches. But that's without a hem. Maybe 17 inches. And then I can hem in an inch. I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the full length to the selvage, which looks like it's 17 inches. Okay, I now have it measured. I don't think that you can see it, but it's measured out. And the next part is to actually cut into the fabric, which is always the scariest part. But like I said, I got this on sale, and I can always try and repurpose the skirt, honestly, if it doesn't fit for the bodice, because I know that like which way the pattern goes with the grain, so I can still line up pattern pieces pretty well. So now I have to cut out my mini skirt, and we'll see how that goes. We have a circle. Okay, so this is a quick little try on. So I have it, there's plenty of room in the waist for adding a or like a hem allowance. And what I'm thinking, because it is quite short, that I might just go ahead and make some bias binding from the fabric. It kind of has a stretch to it, and just add some bias tape on the end so that it doesn't take as much off the length, and just be really judicious with my top allowance. But it's honestly, I mean, it's not too short, so I think it might actually turn out. So now I have it folded in half, and I think this is where I'm going to cut a seam. So I'm just going to double check that this is the right length. It is 17. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut down one of these edges. And now when I add it onto my waist, I can take it in, which it actually feels like it needs to be taken in a lot more. So I don't know if maybe I made a bad calculation, but I'm gonna make a waistband that has seam allowance and is the measurement of my waist. And then I'll just cut the skirt down to match the waistband, since I know the waistband will be correct. Okay, so I'm actually going to cut some bias strips first, because when I do the corset, I'm going to want bias anyways. And so having enough is probably going to take a few yards. So I'm just going to go ahead and start cutting that out so that I have bias strips ready for both the corset and hopefully the hem of this skirt. So now that I have the bias hem done, or at least put together, I'll have to fold it, because I like to use the double fold method. So you fold it in and then in on itself. So the next we'll be using the scrap fabric from the top of it. This should be enough, I think, in width, because you'll want it double the height, and then this I think is more than my waist measurement. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut out a waistband. It's not going to match the pattern, I don't think, but honestly, that's fine. I think I'm giving up on the pattern matching part of this project. Okay, so I've measured my waist. That means it's going to be right here. Kind of nice when you have a plaid print because you can just kind of go straight down the print and it will be your measurement. Okay, so now that this is the correct length, I'm going to make it the correct width. I'm going to try and even it up on both sides so that it looks nice. Look how uneven it is. That's what happens when you don't pay attention. Okay. Now I'm just going to fold it in half and make it all even based on the shortest part of where it was cut. Okay. Now we have the waistband, and it seems to fit quite well around my waist. This should be just enough to have that seam allowance to match up with the back side and fit nice and snug. Almost always when I'm making waistbands, I end up adding interfacing to the waistband just to give it a bit more structure because it will like fold over and it won't stay nice at your waist. So I actually, when I was doing my last project, I was like, oh, I don't have fusible interfacing. I do. I have fusible interfacing. It's just in my little drawer with all of my pattern pieces, and I have no idea why I would have put it there. So I think what I'll actually end up doing is add some interfacing to the wrong side of this fabric and just fuse it down because I feel like when it's already a thick fabric, the sew-in can be kind of bulky. And even if they're the same weight, I don't know, maybe that's just a preference thing. But I think I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Now that I have that, I'm going to go ahead and flip this over and make that go down the center so that I have my waistband. And now I have a waistband. Woohoo! Okay, so now I'm at my sewing machine and I'm essentially going to attach the waistband with the skirt, and that should allow me to move on to finishing the skirt. Honestly, I won't probably attach the bias tape, the bias ending, to the hem of the skirt because you're supposed to let it drape for like, I don't know, 24 hours so that gravity can pull, because the skirt is essentially cut on the bias, or like a lot of the skirt is cut on the bias. And that means that it can essentially settle unevenly, and then you'll have an uneven hem if you don't wait. So I really wanted to start on the skirt so that I could get it hanging on my mannequin before I started on the corset top, because I want this to have as much time as possible to settle in, especially because this fabric has just slight stretch, which I'm not usually used to. It's not a lot of stretch, but it's more than like the linen that I typically use or cotton that I typically use. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this, and then we will go from there. Okay, so we have a waistband attached to the skirt. So I'm going to press this now so that way it's all the way it should be. But in general, it's looking like it's going to fit. I'm not sure how I feel about the patterns not matching up. Again, that's kind of Like I said, that was a goal of mine, but I just wasn't paying that much attention. And I think, honestly, I think it's going to be cute either way. Okay, so I lied just like 2 minutes ago. I decided that I did want the center to match up on the waistband at the very least. Obviously, after that point, the pattern kind of starts to get cut on that bias. So I have the front seams matched, and I had enough room on the sides to just kind of move it over. And so it's looking like I should have enough room to make this work. Okay, so we are now at the point in the skirt where I have inserted the zipper. All I had was like a dark green zipper, so that's what I used. Luckily, it's an invisible zipper, so you can barely see it. And honestly, I think the green is kind of a nice contrast with the orangey red color. And so while I was waiting and doing some stuff, I actually finished the inside of the zipper. So I had enough excess from the skirt to essentially wrap it around and finish all of the seams on the zipper, so that way it looks a little bit more polished and I don't have to worry about the zipper fraying at any point. And so I still have to attach the waistband, which is what I think I'm going to do next. I'm going to hand attach the waistband, and I'll start working on the bodice corset that matches it, so that way I can try and get this finished in the next day or so before we leave. Matcha break. Is anyone else like a huge fan of matcha? One, it has great benefits for all of my health stuff, but two, I just love the taste of it. If you've ever been to like an Asian restaurant before, they tend to have like green tea ice cream, which matcha is just essentially full leaf green tea. And so instead of like seeping the leaves and just like essentially like getting the nutrients that way, you are putting a fine powder of the entire leaf. And so you're consuming more of the plant, which has higher antioxidants and all of this good stuff. It's not like a superfood, you know, like I don't really believe in superfoods, but it does do a lot of really great things. And I'm also really sensitive to caffeine. I think it's just quite nice. But yeah, this does. It tastes just like green tea ice cream. And I usually just do mine with soy milk right now. I just prefer the taste of it. It's not for any reason other than I like the taste. I don't seem to have any issue with dairy or anything like that, but I just have been on a soy milk kick and have been really enjoying it. Okay, so I have my plaid fabric laid out and I'm attempting to match the pattern for the bodice pieces. So this is just the first part of the bodice. We have the front, the side, and the back. So I'm just making sure that these pieces will line up correctly and I will get as close of a match as possible. And I'm going to have to do this 2 times. So luckily I have more than enough fabric to be able to do that. But this is going to be probably the most challenging part for me. I am not great at it. And honestly, I'm hoping to just get good enough from far away. So I'm going to attempt to do that and go from there. Up next, I decided to choose the lining fabric so I could cut out all of the pieces. We had workers present, so I couldn't use my microphone to talk,
but I ended up deciding on this leftover brown linen fabric.
Good morning. So we are currently on day 2 of my little plaid set project, and I actually was able to finish a bunch yesterday, which is so exciting. I'm really, really pumped about it. And so I was essentially able to almost finish the entire skirt. All I have left to do is attach the hem, which hopefully it hasn't settled too much and I don't have to do much correction of the hem. And I also cut out most of the pattern pieces, actually all of the pattern pieces for the corset top in all of the layers. And I even basted the sew-in interfacing with the outside layer. So everything should be ready to go and ready to sew. I was actually planning on doing more yesterday. However, we have had a horrible problem in our hallway where there is a leak in the wall, and we put in a work order probably a week ago or so saying, hey, there's literal standing water on the floor coming up from the floorboards and this huge mold thing in our laundry room. And I was really expecting them to get somebody out the next day because it's causing significant damage to the floors and to the walls. It looks like it's going to be a big job. And so I was really just hoping that was going to get taken care of before this week. And they said that they would be here between 2 and 4 yesterday, and they showed up at 4. So I was in the middle of doing things. I was using the last bit of light to film and show the process that I was doing. So there's a little bit of voiceover when I'm talking about cutting out the bodice patterns because I had to deal with that, which is just a whole thing. So today's plan is to finish the bodice and finish the skirt. I think I can do this in one day. If not, I'm going to get very, very close, and I might be able to hand stitch what's left when I'm traveling or once I get to our destination for the holidays, because I really want to have this. I mean, like I said yesterday, it's very autumnal in print, but it does have some red in there. So I think if you pair it with a cream shirt or what I'm wearing now, or, something that's green, I think it could really turn out well. I have all of my pattern pieces for the corset cut out, including the interfacing and the lining for each piece. And this pattern, I think, wants me to start by putting the back pieces together and doing it in a way that sandwiches the seams so that you don't see the raw edges and protects them, which I think is kind of cool. I haven't done something like this before in sewing. I haven't really done French seams or anything that kind of preserves the seams. I've always just finished my seams with a zigzag or my serger. So I'm interested to try a new technique and see how clean it comes out. I think it will kind of reduce a step if I can just sew one way and then sandwich those seams and pocket those seams away. And today, really my only goal is to finish this top and maybe finish the hem on the skirt, but whatever. And I think it's doable in the next 12 hours. So hopefully the project agrees with me. And hello, Mr. B. He has arrived for today's antics. It's all coming together quite nicely. This is the front placket of the right side, and that's essentially finished. And so I have all of the pieces with the boning channels put in, and now it's time to attach the sides to the back panels. And you have to do it in a weird burrito way to pocket the seam. I don't even know if I'm doing this right the first time, so we'll see. I'm going to give it a good old college try, but honestly, this is going a lot quicker than I thought it would. I knew corset tops were pretty easy, but with this one, I don't have to finish any of the seams because it's just kind of all built in to the steps, which I really like. And so if this ends up fitting me well, I think I'll use this pattern a lot. I've actually bought from this pattern company before. It was the same people that I used for my engagement shoot dress, which was the first dress that I had ever made. And I was so proud of it at the time. And it's still really nice. I mean, I think I can fit into it right now, but earlier this year I couldn't. And so I was a little sad about it. But honestly, I really like this company. They always have video instructions, which I'm a visual person. I'd much rather see you do something so I can rewatch it 10 times than read the same sentence over and over and not really compute it. So I am going to go ahead and try and figure out how the heck to pocket the back with the front and then see if it will fit. Okay. So I actually think this is going to turn out real nice. I feel like those line up. The only part that doesn't perfectly line up is the side seams. It's kind of cut at an angle, and I had to sacrifice one seam to really get the others to fit, but I think overall it's turning out super good. Okay, so it is 10:29 at night, and when I said earlier that the bodice was going quickly, I forgot how much of it needs to be hand sewn. But I do have good news in the sense that I think everything is essentially finished. I simply need to add the lacing part, the grommets and the eyelets, and allow that to lace up.